Good morning, it's Wednesday the 22nd of May. Dollar index, as you can see, dollar index is continuing to creep higher. So as I said yesterday, we still remain in something of a bull trend, even though we get these deep pullbacks. Don't know how far this will go, but we've obviously got resistance around the previous high of 98.30, 98.33. Not too far away from there, sort of 25 pips away-ish as I speak. So we'll see if that previous high is challenged, and if we don't break it, then obviously we've got a little double top, but we'll deal with that if and when we get there. Okay, Aussie dollar remains in a bear trend. We've been selling into any strength. Not so easy this week, admittedly. Once we broke through the 69 sort of 10-15 level, we didn't quite reach the next selling opportunity. So not easy to find an entry point if you were not already short. We've retested last week's low and held it. So we've got a little bit of resistance up to 69.00, above 69.10. Then we're looking at 69.25.30. Stop above 69.45. New Zealand dollar lower as expected. As you can see, we topped out just below this trend line yesterday. What was the high here? 65.42. I had my sell level on my spreadsheet at 65.50.55, which was up around this little fib resistance area and close to the 200-day moving average. We didn't quite get there. Tricky, but anyway, if we bounce today, we've got resistance at 65.30.35. I'll have a stop above 45. Well, I'll have a stop above 40, and then actually the best thing to do with this, the levels are so close together, sell it between 65.30 and 65.55 really. You know, it's a band of resistance. Instead of messing around trying to actually pinpoint the entry, I think that's the safest thing to do. It's only above 65.60 that this thing looks more positive. Dollar yen pushed higher and finally reached my resistance up at 110.50.60. I think we topped at 67. Yeah. So we're short here, and obviously we need this market now back below 110.50 as soon as possible, back below the 100-day moving average. We had initially held that what I thought was weak resistance up at 110.30, so it wasn't a huge surprise to see us break higher. So now I really need us to hold below the 50% fib at 110.70. As I say, get below 110.50, below 110.30 will look more negative for today. We've got a positive moving average crossover actually on the hourly chart, but that doesn't mean we can't turn lower. 110.30, 110.00. Strong support at 109.90, 109.80 for profit taking on the shorts. Euro yen, not so much luck. We beat this resistance here at up to 123.25, and then we didn't make it to my next selling opportunity at 123.85.95. So a bit frustrating, really. You can see this is now support, although less strong support because the trend line isn't there helping us out here. The best support looks likely to be around 122.95.85 with all the trend line moving averages and everything else going on down there. So that might be worth a long actually if we were to dip that far. And I still think that 123.85.95 level is a good resistance level. This is just a midpoint. So if you're short, it's a good place to take some profit maybe, but I wouldn't be getting long. I would wait until we dip down here. Euro's drifted lower, but I don't really have any strong opinions on that. Canadian dollar, well, sideways. Yesterday we were, well, no, not yesterday. We drifted lower again yesterday to test the last week's low at 133.90 in the 133.90 area. If we break lower, we'll be looking at 133.70. Where are we? 75? Yeah, 75.70 as support. Usual Brexit shenanigans in cable. So we saw a really good spike up, but obviously that couldn't be sustained. I think Theresa May and one of her stupid votes. 128.13 was where we got to, and we've just reversed and wiped out all of that now. So again, the pound remains in a negative trend. We are very oversold, but I'm going to have to see a buy signal before I even dream about changing my trend to even neutral at the moment. This just looks very negative to me. Gold has not been easy to trade lately, or I haven't found it easy. So we spiked below the trend line, which had held so well the day before, and now we're back above it. What do you do with this? 12.73 again is the support level, but I'm not sure if I trust it now after this spike low. Well, we didn't get the close below it, so in theory we could hold it and head up to 1282, 1283. This is just a cluster of confusion to me, quite honestly. I don't really know what to do with it. We might just trade sideways, you know. I'm going to have to leave this one for today and try and hope that I get a better signal for tomorrow for gold. I like gold normally, and usually I find it easier to trade than other things, but this right now isn't working for me. Silver's actually been a lot easier to read. It's been holding its trend lines and its moving averages and kind of doing what it's supposed to do. Now we're consolidating. We've got kind of more positive candles down here, as you can see, with a long lower wicks and this more of a hammer. So perhaps trade sideways as we become oversold. I don't see this as a strong buy signal. Okay, a bounce wouldn't surprise me, especially as we've held this trend line on a closing basis. But I think it's too risky to be getting long. If you've been short and you've taken profit, that's fine. Wait for a bounce. If we got up to 15, sort of 70, 75, 14, 70, 75, that would be a good resistance area, as you can see quite clearly on the chart. Oil, we're on the July contract, and now we can't seem to hold on to gains. We seem to have sellers coming in up around, well, below $64, which is where I suggested the market might top out. We're not quite reaching that. So I think pressure could turn to the downside. I've said that already, but this is not the most positive picture. So we'll see if the market does turn lower. Below 62.15 would certainly look a little bit more negative, or 62.20, 62.15. So I had strong support in the E-mini S&P down at 28.37.35. That worked really nicely on Monday. We continued the recovery yesterday. It's all this waiting around for Trump and his Twitter account, isn't it, really, to wait and see what he does next with his trade war. I've never seen a market controlled by a president before, but this is a situation that we're in. So we've obviously got resistance at in the low 12s, 28.70 area anyway. So a break above 28.75 would look a little bit more positive for today. 28.80. Again, this is declining resistance, but it's around 28.90. 95, let's call it. By the time we get there, it certainly would be anyway. So a short here with a stop above 2900 looks worth it, to see if this bear trend remains and to see if my little head and shoulders pattern continues to develop. The Nasdaq is respecting the levels quite well. Trend line and minor fib support here. We bounced off that at the beginning of the week and we're pushing a little bit higher. This looks like a cluster of resistance, doesn't it? Around sort of 75.00, 75, 75.05, 75.15. We haven't quite got there yet, but that will be the main resistance for today. So we start pushing above 75.30, that will look a bit more positive. And actually the path is quite clear for a run up to 75.60, 75.80 even. So I don't really see strong resistance until we test last week's high around 76.40, coupled with that 61.8% fib at 76.50, and by the time we get there, the 500-hour moving average will also be there. So we could have a little vacuum, 150-point vacuum, if we get above 75.30. Well, 100-point vacuum if we get above 75.30. Dow's edging higher as well. Not so clear, this chart, really. I can't really get my teeth into this one. Obviously we've got resistance at the 50% fib at 25.950, 960, which is where we halted last week. So I'd suggest that's the key point right now. We start moving above that, then obviously that's going to be more bullish, certainly if we get a close above it. And then we're heading up to 26.100, 26.130 on the downside. Minor support at 25.785, 775. So below 25.750 is a bit more negative, and we're looking at 25.690, 670, and then we've got this trend line support down here at 25, sort of 600, 25.590, 25.570. DAX has been tricky, a little bit of resistance. It's quite effective, this resistance. 500-hour moving average at 12, 185, 195, let's call it. And then we've got the 61.8% fib at 12 to 20, 12 to 30. Those are the two resistance levels for the day. So if we get above 12 to 60, that's going to look a bit more positive as well. You can tell by my tone of voice, I'm not really that excited about the opportunities today. There's a lot of sideways drifting. Stock market's a little bit undecided. I think really swing trade opportunities are not really there right now, so it's scalping. Try to nick 20 pips here and there when you can see, if we test some decent levels and it's worth putting a trade on. But I don't think it's worth holding anything for too long right now. It looks like things are chopping backwards and forwards without any serious direction.